Welcome to the SSN On Base podcast, where we're talking baseball, both MSU and everything about baseball. Here's your host, Rob Bennett.
All right, welcome fans to another edition of SSN On Base. Of course, I'm Rob Bennett, and when it comes to Michigan State baseball, boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. To break everything down green and white on the diamond, I brought in a couple of experts on the subject. First, let me introduce Coach Jake Boss Sr., who was kind enough to come back for more, as they say, after being part of our debut last week. Coach?
Good to be here.
I am thrilled also for a certain gentleman to be joining us for today's episode, Chris Solari from the Lansing State Journal. Chris, thanks for joining me
Rob,
as well.
You brought in one expert in me. Let's just be very clear about that. I'm just a guy who's been around a little bit.
You've been around. I'm going to get to that here right now. You've been around. What? You do a great job at the Lansing State Journal. Great job. I mean, you are a busy guy. MSU football, check. MSU hockey, check. MSU basketball, check. MSU baseball, check. Lugnuts, check. You did women's basketball for a long time. Yep. That's how I got introduced to you back in the day. Check. I mean, is there anything you don't do?
I've covered wrestling before.
All right.
And among many others over the years. So, yeah, I mean, it's over 20 years now that I've been covering Michigan State in one capacity or another.
Yeah, and you have a lovely family to boot, so you are full of things.
That's what my wife says, too.
All right, before we dig deep into these last couple of weeks for Michigan State baseball, I want to touch upon something with Coach. As you see right there, one of the big things in baseball in general, one of my favorite things in general is bobbleheads. Chris, I think you can agree. One of the greatest things in sports.
Yes,
right?
Without a doubt.
And here we have been able to find a Jake Boss Sr. Lansing Lugnut Hometown Heroes bobblehead.
I'm sorry, Rob. I apologize.
Now, how cool is that, really? I mean, when you first found out about that, tell us the story. There is a story behind this whole thing, right?
There is a story, and it was they were going to do a bobblehead for Magic at Cooley Law School Stadium, and until Irv said that he wanted X amount in return for every one sold. Mm-hmm. And they didn't go for that, and my son was talking to the GM there at the time and discussing that, and they wanted to do a bobblehead. They didn't want to discard the night for the bobblehead, and so my son said, "Well, what about my dad? Why don't you?" And he jumped on it, and so they had one for me instead of Magic that night. So that's how that all came about.
That's the first time. So you can say you're Magic's replacement.
Right.
Subbed in for him.
Pinch hit for Magic, yeah.
Right. And I tell you, it looks just like you, right? It's a pretty good rendition, right?
Well, I know I told you before we went on here, but I've seen those on eBay, and they're pulling some money on eBay. Of course, I've also seen them at Goodwill too. So I mean, you get a little bit of here and there.
In secondhand store and whatever, yeah.
That's awesome. You've made it in baseball when you get your own bobblehead. Would you concur?
Well, I don't know. Graham Couch has one, so just temper it with a little bit of that.
There's always an exception to the rule, right?
When you have a giveaway, then you've made it.
Yes, yes. All right, gentlemen, let's look into this Michigan State baseball team right now. I would say a crazy couple of weeks here. I'm going to quote Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks with this team. It's like a box of chocolates. Really, you don't know what you're going to get. Case in point, some great walk-off wins against Western Michigan last week, and then a series with Northwestern that really ran the gamut of emotions from beginning to end. Then a great time with the Lansing Lugnuts. Always a fun time there. Mm-hmm. And then we get to Comerica, a huge win against Michigan. Big win. Mm-hmm. And then last night.
Right.
The collapse, I think is fair to say, with Central Michigan. And, of course, you two were there.
One of us was there. The expert was there.
The expert was there. You were there, Jay. We were listening to you.
Yeah.
Relief pitching, obviously, an issue that game, which has been really good up until that point. You mentioned that with the broadcast with Scott Moore. And then when I also looked at it, too, I mean, a 7-0 lead, you think going into the 8th, plenty. But as we said, with this team, inconsistency is an issue. So, and they had and Michigan State had plenty of chances to get even more runs throughout the game. So, just your overall thoughts. You've had a little while now to think about it. I don't know if you really wanted to since the broadcast. And I'm going to take a quote from you that you had yesterday. What happened?
Well, in regards to last night, it was through 7 innings, it was we played outstanding baseball and got a great job from a freshman, Keegan Barr, who went 5 1/3 shutout baseball and really looked very, very good. And then and then we had Borkovich coming out of the pen, who also looked outstanding. And then we get into the 8th inning, and we start playing we start giving up what I call freebies. And a freebie is a walk, an error, a wild pitch, anything that will put a base runner on there. Without anything that he has done to get on base. And I believe in the last 2 innings there were like maybe 8 freebies in the last 2 innings. And if you go along, what I always preached with my ball clubs when I was coaching was, I'll give you 4. You've got 4 freebies, and that's it. Then we got to shut it down and no more. And we're talking like 8 in the last 2 innings is just, it's unheard of. It's incredible. And it was walk, wild pitch, hit batsman, and it just went on and on and on. And unfortunately, we couldn't stem the tide. And then it gets into a kid's head, and he starts aiming the ball, and there's nobody who wants to throw strikes more than that kid out there on the mound. But that's what happened last night, and I think they scored 8 runs on 6 hits. I believe they got
finished with 7
hits
in the game, but still, 6 walks and 2 hit batters in the last 2 innings. That's that's a killer.
And a wild pitch. There was a run scored on a wild pitch. So, it's 9 freebies.
And Central's one of those teams that you can't do that against.
They're a good ball club.
They've always been that way. They've always been scrappy. And this is always a big game for them.
Yes, it is.
And they've played Central. We've talked about it. Central has played Michigan State quite well over the past couple of seasons.
Oh, so
yes,
absolutely.
They have. Yeah, we had a rough time with them last year, and we handled them, I thought, pretty well the first time we played them this year, and we had them, very good last night, for 7 full.
And give credit to Central Michigan. A lot that transpired was our fault, but they took advantage of that.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we gave them the momentum, and that's they didn't create the momentum. We gave it to them.
And that's the peril of a midweek game, and we talked about this coming in, is that you want to try and get as many guys work, especially when you get up 7 runs, and you try and mix and match guys and give them a couple innings here to get a taste, and that's one of the things that can happen. Usually when you see a late inning situation like that, it's in a midweek game that where guys are trying to get work, and you're trying to, you got to keep the whole roster involved.
I'm really old school. And I don't think that's a secret around here anymore anyway, but kids, I think, approach midweek games in a lot differently than they do a weekend ball game. Okay, a conference ball game. And to some degree, I can understand that, the importance of the game, but how I approach that is that I don't care who we're playing, midweek. I don't care if we're playing the Tigers on the weekend and we're playing Podunk U, in midweek. I put on that uniform. I'm competing, and when I'm competing, there's nothing else going on. I'm focused and I'm ready to go. I'm going to compete just as hard against Podunk U as I am against the Detroit Tigers on the weekend, and I don't think we get that.
It's a maturation process.
And I don't think we get that, and I don't think you see that it's not only in our situation, but I think you see that in a lot of ball clubs, and that's one thing I I don't understand that.
Yeah, it seems to be a dilemma in all sports. Like, can they get up for the, I don't want to say lower competition, but you know what I mean?
Look at the Final Four team that just lost to Texas Southern in December.
Right. Exactly.
That's a great point.
It's,
exactly. And if I'm looking at it, that we're playing a patsy midweek, and I put that uni on, the one thing I'm thinking, boy, this is a time for me to get fat. Man, I can get my average up there. I can get this and that, and
not
so
just for
forth.
the team, but for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, and that you're really stressed with kids that. This game isn't about me. This game isn't about you. Okay, I don't play for myself. I'm playing for you, and I'm playing for you. I'm playing for my teammates. I'm not playing for myself. And once they really understand that whole concept, I think is when you really have success. And I think you saw that with Tom's ball club this year, Izzo's ball club. Those kids play for each other. They die for each other.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have that, you really got something.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I think that your son Jake has done a good job of that historically, is that from an RPI standpoint, you make your case for the NCAA based on your midweek games. And he has preached that for a number of years now, and that's how you got to the tournament the one year. That's where things are really brought together, because you're going to have that laser-sharp focus come Big Ten games. That's just natural. That's your big goal, your primary goal is winning a Big Ten title. Right. There's no midweek title. But those midweek titles, the title is getting an NCAA berth.
Exactly, and being able to earn that NC2A bid by the performance you give during the year, during the midweeks. And we went to when we went to Stanford in the regional that year, I believe we won the state that year.
Yes,
we beat everybody, and we're very strong in the midweek, and that's what got us the bid.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at some other games that we mentioned a little bit. That Northwestern series, like I said, the team basically ran the gamut. We gave away the first game of the series, much like, not to the extent of Central Michigan last night, but much in the same way. But then we came back in that second game, and you were talking about the togetherness of the team. I'm playing for you. I'm playing for you. And the way they came back against Northwestern, 4 runs down, I believe, in the 9th, and was able to come back and win that game, you kind of saw that maturation, as Chris was saying, happen in that game. We talked to the coaches after, and they didn't say much. They didn't need to say much, apparently, to kind of get the guys going. They came into the dugout saying, this can't happen anymore. And they came out, and they executed, as we saw. So you thought maybe this would turn the corner. And then they took some success forward. But it just seems like, I'm going to bring up that word again, Coach, consistency really has been the bugaboo for this team all year.
No question about that. And, that first game against Northwestern on Friday, I mean, it seemed like everything I don't know if we even had an error in that ball game, but it was like plays, we just couldn't make the play.
Yeah.
I mean, things that things that wouldn't show up in the box score. I mean, I think they had 2 or 3 base hits, infield hits in the 6 hole, where a shortstop came over and fielded the ball cleanly and didn't have a play. Mm-hmm. Next hitter, same thing, same type of scenario, and I don't know how many runs they scored there without getting the ball out of the infield on Friday. And then, dropping that game really, really hurt us. And then we came back on Saturday, and it took us a while to wake up because, I think it was after 2 or 3, we were down 6.
Yeah.
We were down 6-0. And then the cry went out in the dugout, and the kids finally got themselves together and said, we are not losing this ball game.
Yeah, and you look at what the team has done over the course. I mean, going into last night, it won 7 of 8.
Right.
And really, we're headed to 8 of 9.
Right.
And that's, I think, last night's game is going to be pivotal just from a mental standpoint. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, that weekend series, you're talking 48 hits in 3 games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was incredible.
The offense is just erupting. I mean, Ryan Krill especially has really, as Big Ten Player of the Week, shown really probably his best stretch in a Michigan State jersey.
Yeah, in his career.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And you look at Tony Checky, where Tony came from. He was right on the Mendoza line or below it, 2 weeks ago.
Both
or 2.5 weeks.
Were scuffling early in the season.
And now he's hitting 326 or something like that. And Gibby the same way. And when you get Gibson and Checky on base to set the table,
that's havoc.
Oh yeah,
it's the new order. I mean, it's not the 3-run homer anymore, especially with the change in bats at the college level. That speed, I think that speed game that you see now at the pros has really started at the college level with these bats.
No question about it. It's changed the game.
Yeah,
and like I was going to bring up, good segue here. The offense is one of the most pleasant things to see here during this run because the pitching overall has been, when you look at the past 2 weeks, steady, and it's been pretty steady the entire year. So the offense is finally, Blaise Salter is another guy, I think, that has come in and had a couple of key hits. Just not hits, but a couple of key hits in certain situations, so that's good to see.
Yeah. So
the offense really seems to be kicking in, and obviously we're going to need that. What really has been the key in your mind? Are they more patient at the plate? How has that maturation developed to a positive now?
I've seen a difference in our approaches at the plate. I think it's kind of night and day different with our mental approach at the plate. The key in hitting is, you don't want to get yourself out. Mm-hmm. You make this guy get me. I'm going to make him get me out. Okay, and instead of, and I think we've been chasing a lot, and we've been getting into hitters counts, and swinging at pitchers' pitches and hitters counts, which is a no-no. Okay, and so I think we've kind of turned that around a little bit. You're still going to see that, but I was watching, a little talk with Blaise last night before the ball game, and you got to understand, how you're being pitched, and you have to understand what is my out pitch, okay, and how are they pitching me here, and how are they getting me out, and so on and so forth, and you don't want to tell a hitter to you never want to guess, okay? And I think there's a fine line between guessing on a pitch and looking for a pitch. I know that Blaise Salter is going to get a breaking ball or a changeup outside, okay? I know that. Does he know that? He's got to know that, okay?
4 years on, especially.
And once he understands this is how they're pitching me, okay, I can get a handle on it. Then I know I'm going to get that slider. I know I am.
Yep.
Right. And I'm going to sit on that.
You only get maybe 1.5 pitches at a bat per game.
Sure.
That are really drivable pitches.
Exactly.
And it's like you said, it's anticipating that.
Where you hit that mistake. Yep, exactly. And I think I saw him take a couple steps forward last night. He got a couple bangs and a couple RBIs on the night, and he looked a lot better at the plate. But I think that's really been the key, is our approaches. We're seeing more pitches. We're hitting, our pitch in a hitter's count and so forth. So I think that's been a big difference.
And a big thing, too, and this goes back to getting guys like Gibson, who's been doing it all year, and Checky firing up guys on base. We're getting key hits with men on. It's not just single runs every other inning. We're getting 3, 4, 5 runs a pop.
Yeah.
Which I mean, you talk about it all the time on the broadcasts, and Chris, I mean, that's when you got it. That's when you got to make the dough.
And early on in the year, we were not getting those. We were not putting together those key hits in those key situations. We might get 10, 11 hits during the ball game, but you get them with 2 out. Okay, and you get men on second. You get 2 hits with 2 out, and you got men on second and third, and the next kid pops up or whatever.
And you look at what happened in that Michigan game. I mean, Ryan Richardson comes up with 2 outs and runners on base and delivers and brings in Krill. And then Krill with 2 outs drives in. You talk about finding that pitch to hit. He found his pitch, goes down in the zone, takes it to right field, brings in 2 runs with 2 outs. And those are timely hits.
Exactly.
2-out hitting. And that's something that Eric Bakich talked about, too, is the 2-out hits. And Michigan left 9 runners on base. Michigan State left 6, but they put in those key runs.
Right. And there's nothing that hurts a ball club more than getting that 2-out RBI and scoring that run with 2 outs. That kills them.
All right, let's take a look at what's coming up for this team. We've got Rutgers coming in. We go to Rutgers.
First trip to Rutgers.
First trip ever to Rutgers. And it's important. Rutgers is right behind us in the standings when you look at it. I mean, at this point on, let me ask you this, Coach. And Chris, is it getting to the point now in the season where you have to handle your business, obviously, but now you start paying attention maybe to other teams and what they're doing, or is it just so focused on what you need to do to move up into the standings because it's the top 6 teams that make it into the
top 8.
Top 8 now. Excuse me. Thank you. Yeah, 8 now with the addition of Maryland and Rutgers. Top 8. So we got to get into that top 8. Is there a little bit of scoreboard watching going on at this point, or is it still too early, or don't do it at all?
Not for me. I've really never done that, and I try to stay away from that. I'm too worried about where my ball club is at and where we're going. And I always believe we take care of our stuff. I don't care what happens, down south or whatever. I really don't. And because if we take care of business, if we go out and win 2 out of 3 from here on out on the weekend, which we're certainly capable of doing. Then we'll sit back and see what happens.
Yeah, win the series.
All you can do.
Win the series.
Win the series, and
I think maybe the last weekend of the year when things are a little bit more. I guess finite, because I got 3 games left. Let's see what these other teams. But it's always going to be your team first. Because if you're not playing well, what does it matter? You might if you go in, if you don't. I remember, what was it? A couple years ago, the Northwestern series, and at the end of the year, and I think it was a walk-off homer that kept you guys out of the playoffs.
Yes, it was.
So you can. I mean, it literally can come down to that last pitch.
That was down there at Northwestern. I'll never forget that. Yeah, and and they came from behind to do it too.
Yeah,
and that really hurt us. Yeah, no question. Yeah.
So we go into Rutgers, and like I said, they're right there with us as far as the standings go, and obviously winning the series right now, just not only for the standings, but maybe for the mental aspect of these guys. This is a crucial 3-game series.
They all are. Yeah. Everyone from here on out is a crucial series. And you look at the schedule that we've played, and we beat some outstanding ball clubs. I mean, clubs that are ranked nationally and so forth. So, we're going in here, at least I'm believing that we can sweep here. And I'm believing that every series we go into, we can sweep that series. And
the schedule, like you said, the schedule's there for us.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, at this point in the year, your Rutgers is sitting at 12-23-1, which again, those ties, that always throws me off in baseball. But I mean, they're 5-7 in the conference, and this is a team that has had history on its side. It's been a strong program in the past, maybe not so right now, and they're going to be adjusting to what the Big Ten is. Yeah. There's not necessarily the same kind of books. You don't know some of these guys that are out there for both teams. So I mean, a lot of that will come down to talent when you get into those situations.
Yep.
And I think that, you look at right now, there's 5 series left, 5 Big Ten series left. Rutgers, Indiana, Purdue, Penn State, and Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota.
Now, obviously Purdue and Indiana have been pretty good, and you know that. Purdue this year, struggling. But they always, you're going to get Purdue's best game regardless. But the rest of those games, I mean, that's much of the bottom half of the standings.
They're all winnable. Absolutely.
And I mean, that's the goal. The goal is to win a Big Ten title, but more importantly, to get into the tournament in Minneapolis, because we've seen it over the years that anything can happen, and that automatic berth to the NCAA tournament is the primary focus.
Well, once you get into the tournament, just like in any sport, any type of tournament, it's 0-0.
Yep.
Exactly.
You just got to get there.
It's double elimination, and anything can happen.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a chance to speak your mind now. I know Chris was looking forward to this when I told him before we started this. This is our Coach, you know about this. This is our open forum segment to end the show. So whatever's on your mind, have at it. So I'm going to give it to the new guy here, since Coach, you were here last week. Chris, what is on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind? I said it coming in here. The thing that drives me nuts in baseball, more than anything, and more than errors, more than maybe more than even mental lapses, although those drive me nuts as well when you see them, even just watching the game as an observer and a writer. But leadoff walks. Leadoff walks, and as a coach, you know this. They are
you're laughing. You're laughing.
They're
Coach.
Killer. I mean, and I think we're in an age now in baseball where from the hitter's standpoint, they've gotten a lot better because the walk has become such a premium. It's become a major stat. Maybe the last 30 years, 20, 30 years, it wasn't considered a stat. But once on-base percentage started to become a big thing, once the sabermetricians, and I have my issues with that as well. Once they started to delve into it and say, hey, you should really try to get on base more. Walks are good. Even if your batting average is down, that helps. I mean, you start seeing a little more patience, and that's got to be in a pitcher's mind, I think, especially to start an inning. Don't worry about the strikeout. Don't worry about nibbling the corners. Let the guy put it in play and let your defenders work. Let
him swing the bat.
Yeah, that's what exactly.
Swing the bat. You get into walks, and the way the game is played today, with the pitch count, and don't get me going on the pitch count, but when you're walking people, you're throwing you're more and more pitches, and you want to minimize the number of pitches you are throwing, as a pitcher. You want to stay in the ball game. You don't want to be taken out of there in the fourth, fifth inning because your pitch count is high and you're walking people. But there are so many things. It just opens up the entire offense for you when that leadoff hitter, when he's walked. And I don't know what it is, but it's a little different. I don't know what the stats say to this, but the leadoff hitter, when he walks, he scores, okay? As opposed to the leadoff hitter who singles and doesn't score. And there's something to that, and I know that the numbers are higher for that walk than they are for the kid who singles.
I think there's a mental side of it to the pitcher because you realize, okay, that guy maybe beat me on my mistake versus I beat myself by not pitching to the zone or pitching to contact.
Could very well be, but there is a difference in that. But, that and the leadoff walk and of course, the two-out walk. I think what happens a lot of times in a two-out walk is you get those the first two outs relatively quick. Okay, and the pitcher may lose his focus and lose his concentration when the third guy comes up there, and he may lose him, on a walk. But the two-out walks, boy, they hurt you too, boy.
Yeah.
They really do.
I know I asked you that. I said, which drives you more?
Yeah. But it's a leadoff walk that would drive me crazy. Yeah. Well, think about it. You get the leadoff hitter in every inning. Okay, you're going to win a lot of ball games.
Yep. You minimize their chances by 33% all of a sudden because that's one of three outs. I mean, it sometimes seems so simplistic when you break it down like that, but that's really what it is.
3 outs.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it.
Yep. It's really a simple, beautiful game, isn't it?
Yeah.
With all these numbers and statistics, you got to love it.
Yeah.
But I also want to bring up, too, you talked about it all the time during the broadcast for pitchers to attack, pitch to strike, and especially, again, I hate to keep bringing up last night, but you were bringing up, go in there and make him swing. Don't nibble at the corners. Now, every batter is different. Every situation is different. But I liked what you were saying on that. You got to attack the hitter in situations that were coming up.
I've got a 7-run lead going into the 8th and 9th inning, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to make them hit 8 home runs to beat me,
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
I'm going to make him hit 8 home runs to beat me, which means I'm going to challenge every hitter.
Trust your stuff.
Every hitter I'm going to challenge. And I'm going to throw that fastball, and I don't care if he knows what's coming, or I don't care. I'm challenging him with my best stuff, and let the chips fall where they may. But you can't nibble here and nibble there when you got that lead, and that's what happened to us last night. And man,
again, you can't finesse. You gotta really at that point just think, okay, the game's moved along at a really crisp pace. Pitch to contact,
Exactly.
Minimize the amount of work that you have to do to get the victory.
My approach as a pitcher, I didn't pitch, I caught, but my approach as a pitcher would be a lot different if I'm going into the 8th and 9th 3-2 or 4-2 lead, as opposed to a 7-0 or 8-0 lead. It's going to be a little bit different.
Unfortunately, in my pitching career, I was always on the other side of that 7-8 lead. So I have nothing to say about that. But I mean, I also was an infielder who happened to be drawn into the mound more often than I should have.
You said pitching to contact, and boy, I love the guys who pitched to contact. And what's interesting when you see these, your major leaguers, and Frank Tanana would be one, okay? And I can't
post-surgery Frank Tanana especially.
Exactly. I mean, he 100-mile-an-hour guy when he first came up, big bonus baby. Okay, then the operation comes, and now he's not a 100-mile-an-hour guy. He may be 90, maybe, okay?
Yeah. But
now he's learning how to pitch, and he's now learning how to pitch to contact. And now I'm getting out of that ball game and I'm going longer into the ball game because my pitch count is down, and they're not concerned about my, getting up there in my pitch count, because I'm pitching to contact, and I'm learning how to pitch, and just instead of trying to blow it by everybody.
You know who's going to be a good example to see if he can take those lessons is Justin Verlander.
I was just going to say Justin Verlander.
The exact same thing from the opposite side as Tanana.
That's right.
But now that they say that all the time, the velocity goes. Now
I got to learn how to pitch.
I mean, look at Jamie Moyer. Moyer, I think, is still pitching somewhere.
What's he, 50 years old now?
48, 49.
He's not pitching anymore.
No.
Finally
he retired.
And they brought him back to the Rockies after a couple years off because he just pitched the contact.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, one thing real quick, I'm going to throw my 2 cents in. And we talked about this before we went on the air. Big win against Michigan. We really didn't divulge into that, but always a big win for Michigan. But how in the world can it not be counted as a Big Ten standings game? Just absolutely blows my mind. Now, you guys are more baseball knowledgeable than little old me, so I'm going to throw it out to you guys. How in the world could that be not counted as a conference game or a conference win, or even if we lost, a conference loss? How does that work?
Well, we are now in the age of technology and so forth.
You love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And apparently this is what the computer spits out in this, and apparently you throw all common sense out the window, for the sake of, okay, let's feed this into the computer. This is what the computer says. Bingo. That's what we're going to go with it. And here we have an in-state rival that is, that we can't play. We'll play them once, and it doesn't count in the Big Ten standings, which is absolutely incredible. They've done the same thing in basketball with Michigan. They've done the same thing in hockey with Michigan.
Sure.
But lo and behold, they won't do it in football.
Yeah.
Now, that's strange that the computer doesn't spit it out, like it does for baseball and the other sports we just mentioned, but it doesn't do that for football. And I understand football is a machine that drives everything. Don't get me wrong.
But they have those
I
protected
understand
rivalries in there, and that's something I wrote about today in the State Journal, is that you have to protect these rivals, especially because these schools and these programs have invested a lot of money now into baseball. Big Ten has said, okay, we're not going away from it. We're not going to cut programs. We're keeping them, and we're going to try and make them the best as possible. The one thing you don't want to do is get rid of those rivalry games.
That's right.
Michigan State, Michigan. Purdue, Indiana. Those are the games that Illinois, Northwestern. Those are the games that are going to get the people in that area excited because you're already fighting a tough battle with the weather. You're trying to get people out. And I look back to the last series, which was in 2013. Last year they didn't play, that was the first time since 1945. Think about that. That's World War II, and that's the only thing that stopped that. But they'd play at least once every year. The one thing that you look at, the attendance for those games, I remember that Friday game was a sellout. And it was packed. Yeah. And it was a good day by April standards in Michigan. It was about 45. It was sunny. Yeah. And that's what fans want to see. They want the rivalry.
Exactly.
You can't let the fans out. And really, you can't, from a recruiting standpoint for both these schools, these are kids that everybody's going after because baseball is such an insular sport. You get more in-state kids for these sports rather than say, basketball.
That's right.
It's less regional and more local. So, I mean, that's got to be protected. It really does.
Yep. No question about it. And I think what would really enhance those in-state rivalries is that we end the year. We end our regular season schedule with our Big Ten rival, our in-state rivalry. And that's one thing that we did when I was at Everett High School. Grand Ledge was our big rivalry and when I was there. And I always wanted to play them the last doubleheader of the year. Everything's on the line.
That's exactly.
Everything's on the line.
Stakes, best weather.
Exactly.
You hit best weather, and no matter what the record is, people are still going to come out.
Sure.
Yep.
No matter what the record is on either team, they're still going to come out because it's the rivalry.
Because everybody wants to see their rival lose.
Right.
Yes.
Well, they want to see their team win against their rival, but most people want to see their rival.
So bring that in-state rivalry back. And push it back to the last series on your schedule.
All right, real quick. One thing about this team, you could say they're very resilient. So we'll see what they can do in New Jersey, Piscataway, New Jersey. Yep. Senior, you're going to be leaving later today for that. So safe travels to you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on as always.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. Chris Solari, thank you from the Lansing State Journal. We hope to do this again.
Yeah.
Right?
This is great.
This is good stuff, right? We really enjoy your time. We really appreciate your time, and we had a lot of fun with it, so I thank you very much. And thank you guys for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Make sure to tune in to SpartanSportsNetwork.com to listen to all the games on the radio with, of course, Scott Moore and Jake Buss, Sr. And, of course, you can also take a look at that SSN mobile app that Scott is trying to push on you, right?
Right.
Do you have it in your phone?
I do.
Your new phone?
I do.
Chris, I got to tell you, he has. What's your new phone? What you have?
I don't
technology.
know. I don't know what it is, but I remember I told my granddaughter I was going to get a new phone so I could text and so forth, and she put her chin in her hand and she looked at me and she said, "Papa, that may be too advanced for you." And she's right.
But you're making it work.
Yeah, trying.
We're making it work. Chris, what do you got coming up for the Lansing State Journal? What are we looking forward to from you?
I'm all over the map. There's a lot of things especially with spring football coming up.
Sure.
And, basketball season and spring football. Those are two things that never end.
Well,
so
we appreciate
that.
We appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule for us today. Thank you, fans, for tuning in. And until next time, I'm Rob Bennett. Go Green.